Okay, turns out I am long-winded, so apologize for that. Okay, let's finish our part. So let's see. I think I'm almost at the end of my pieces, but so I have talked about modeling hospitality, modeling responsibility, respect for self, others, and space. And then the only piece I didn't also talk about was modeling grace. So grace is a gift that's given to us that we don't deserve. And most of the time when I think about giving grace, I think about forgiving people when they make mistakes. And I feel like that is incredibly important because, education is kind of messy work. It's hard work. We're often trying new things, and I love that. I love innovation, risk taking, but that means that some things are going to flop and fail, and sometimes we're overwhelmed and we just miss something. It slips through the cracks, and it's important to me that this be a space where people can safely make mistakes. Kids make them all the time, and it's not fair to expect that grown-ups wouldn't. So especially in light of the fact that we're a Christian school, we should be forgiving 70 times 70 times 70. We should be giving grace where we can, because even though we might not deserve it, we all need it. And I don't feel like you can be a risk taker and an innovator if it isn't safe to make mistakes. So you will find that my yoke is easy. I try really hard to give grace everywhere I can. I'm not a bean counter saying you didn't do this or that. I have high expectations for myself first and foremost, and for everyone around me, because I feel like the work we do is really important, so we give it our all. But I also am really quick to forgive and say, I get it, that happens. Things like that happen. So I only ask that people give that same gift to each other. So yeah, that's part of our culture too. I had mentioned responsive classroom before, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. If you're not familiar with it, I'd love to get you to some training because it's awesome. It's very empowering to children, and it's all about cultivating their respect and responsibility. The one piece that we all really do, well, there's several pieces, but one piece that we all do across all the grade levels is a morning meeting. Morning meeting is a way of gathering your little community and connecting before the day begins. And it's really sacred time. There is, like I said, a lot of research that shows that, learning doesn't happen unless there's a connection there. And so we want the children to be really connected to their teacher, and we want them to be connected to each other, again, so that they're willing to take risks together and learn and make mistakes and grow. So it's composed of kind of 4 pieces. It always starts with the greeting. Usually they greet each other going around in a circle, or they could have something more playful. And we'll model some of those for you this week. But the greeting is really fun. It's a chance for every kiddo to look someone else in the eyes and say, I am so glad you're here today. You matter, right? It wouldn't have been the same without you. It's basically that kind of experience. It might sound like, good morning, Franklin, but that's what it is. It's I'm looking you in the eyes and saying, I'm so glad you're here. So everyone deserves to have a beautiful greeting every day. And then after that, there's always a sharing. And this is just something playful and fun that helps the kids to find out the things they have in common with each other. Oh my gosh, you like, skateboarding too? I didn't know that. And so it's some kind of a game or activity where kids discover what they have in common with each other, or just, share opinions, thoughts, experiences. So that can look different every time. So your greeting might be a minute, your sharing might be a minute, and then the next piece is kind of like the meat of it. And this is where we're leaning in, and it's one of 2 things. Either we're kind of dealing with an issue that the class is grappling with that you want to really resolve, and so we might have a family talk about it. Or it could be that you want to lean into whatever we're kind of working on that month. Maybe it's responsibility, or maybe it's, like I said, courage or something like that. And you have a little mini lesson, and maybe it's a book you're going to read or a game they're going to play that kind of underscores that message, or something, of some kind of meat that takes our mission and really teaches it, goes next level to really teach it. And then we always end in prayer. So Responsive Classroom doesn't have you end in prayer. They might have you set intentions for the day, and that's good too. But we're a Christian school, and we're always asking for God's help with things. So prayer is really special. I mean, even at the youngest ages, they will very quickly start to say, I want to say a prayer for my doggy, my grandma, for myself, for my friends, and it's very sweet. And it's just something that draws them into like that community, that Christian community, and helps them to know you're never alone. So morning meeting usually takes about 20 minutes. We don't call it morning meeting, we call it meeting at the crossroads, because it's sort of like intersects. It's where like our morning meeting intersects with our religious ed approach, our Christian education program. And so it's sort of unique to our school. We made that up, our Crossroads program. So we'll give you more information on that later, but that's what that is. And so here's the deal. We do this even though it steals from academic time. So academics don't start until 8:30 every single day. And that's hard. I mean, we have a lot of awesome resource classes. So academic time is precious and it's limited. Our time for math, reading, writing, all the different things, social studies, science, it is tight. The schedules are tight. But we took this half an hour because we felt like this is sacred. We believe in the importance of building community before we can build learners. And we take that seriously. We lesson plan it every day. We're ready for it. Now, Mondays we have flag, and Wednesday we have chapel. Unless you're early learning, you have chapel on Tuesday. But at least 3 days a week, there is a plan for morning meeting. It's short and sweet, but it's intentional. It addresses whatever needs to be addressed in the classroom. So Frederick Buechner says that if you want to know who you really are as opposed to who you say you are, look at your footprints. If you turn around and look at your footprints, you will know who you really are, because people tend to spend time on the things that are important to them. So you might say outreach is important, but there may not be any footprints at these organizations where you're doing outreach. It's like, ooh, that's tough. You might say church is important, but there aren't very many footprints going there. You might say my family is important, but actually all your footprints are at work. So it's just kind of a reckoning, like what is really important. And so we know that the school day leaves footprints, right? And so we wanted to make sure that there were significant footprints around community building and culture setting and building our Christian identity as a community. So Crossroads is important. It is not a time for kids to do like morning work or whatever. I mean, all of that can wait. The 8 o'clock is the last bell. Kids are supposed to be in the room. If they come after that, they're considered late. So I'd say by 8:05, we're gathered in a rug or sitting in our chairs in a circle, and we are leaning into who we are as a community and our norms, how we treat each other, how we present ourselves to each other, how we solve problems, how we treat each other, how we treat teachers when we go to other classrooms, how we treat people when we're on like a class trip or something. So all that norming happens there, and we believe in the importance of it, which is why we have set 30 precious minutes aside every day to do that work. Cell phones, you're going to need to have it on you all the time, because Raptor is how we communicate emergencies. We do have other ways of communicating too, but you do need to have it on you. I would caution you against using it except in really important circumstances, like I've got to take this call from my doctor. I've got to take this call from my son. I think he's stuck on the side of the road somewhere. But for the most part, it should just be used for emergencies, but it does need to be on you. And if you need a pouch to hang it, just let us know. We've got extras in the office. It's very important to me that we all are on the same page when it comes to confidentiality, discretion, and professionalism. Children are a protected population, and that's because they cannot protect themselves from grown-ups. So that means that we have to be really vigilant about protecting their privacy. So what that looks like is, as a teacher who maybe I have a student with learning differences, I'll talk about that with teachers who teach that child. The art teacher teaches him, the science teacher teaches him, but I'm not going to talk about that with someone who doesn't teach that child, because that would be a breach of confidentiality. I think in a lot of ways it also just has to do with how we talk about families, because our families will learn to trust us, and they will start to share with us who they really are and their struggles. And so we have to be so mindful that we don't share that with other people. That trust is hard to build and really easy to break and almost impossible to restore. So we just need to be incredibly careful when it comes to protecting our children and protecting our families and their right to privacy. And so confidentiality and discretion are really important, and I consider that sort of one and the same with professionalism. And then I also have here, I wanted to speak to promoting a culture that feels safe, inclusive, and where the diversity of our backgrounds, our views, our values, and our talents enriches and advances our mission. It does not compromise it. It's really important that we recognize it is biblical, the power of diversity. And as long as, I think about the Tower of Babel, right? You had all these people trying to build this tower. And what they wanted to do was to make a name for themselves. And so God had to kind of scuttle that, because it should have been to the glory of God, not to their own name and reputation. We also are trying to build something, and we all speak a lot of different languages. We think differently. We have different values, different experiences, different assumptions, and we need to understand that that's by design, and it's beautiful. It's amazing. It's what helps us to work together so beautifully, is that I am surrounded by people who are different from me, and they can help me to see things I wouldn't have seen otherwise. And our children are coming to us more diverse than we realize. And so we want to make sure that our classrooms, that everything that comes out of our mouth really conveys that this is a safe place, that what makes you different makes you special. This is an inclusive place. We're open-minded, and we celebrate our differences. We want to understand them even better. We want to learn. Tell me about your culture. Tell me about your traditions and your family, and that is celebrated. Our families are seeking that. They literally seek us out. They see this community as more diverse than the other private schools in the area, and that makes me really proud, and I want to actually expand that even more, because again, we want to I guess cultivate children who can move through the world later, culturally sensitive and competent, and just really kind of ready to work with anybody, collaborate with anybody, solve problems in a way that is productive, right? So that's our goal. We do it in our little slice of the world here at our school, but we do have in mind that we want to prepare our children for a much larger world, and also kind of a smaller world, right? Like, it's just, they're online gaming with kids on the other side of the world now. So building those cultural competencies makes sense right now, if not for the future too. And let's see if there's anything else here I wanted to touch base on. No, that's the rest of it. That's all I had. The rest I'll leave to Natalia to kind of share in maybe a video she sends, or maybe in person. So that was a lot. I'm glad I got to share it here, and maybe you could just watch this, and now we will do other things when we gather on campus later this week. I still don't know whether or not we'll be there tomorrow. It kind of depends on the trajectory of the storm, and I guess really the pace more than anything. So we'll reach out to you when we know more, but I hope that this was helpful, and you're welcome to write back if you want, or email, text, or anything. All right. God bless everybody. Bye.